My child, stay right here. Please, just for a moment. Stop scrolling. Stop running. Stop rushing to the next task, the next worry, the next emergency you feel you have to solve. I know exactly how fast your heart is beating right now. I know the tightness in your chest and the exhausting speed of your thoughts. You paused here because a part of your soul is crying out for rest. A rest that a good night's sleep has not been able to give you in a very long time. I see you. I see the heavy, invisible burden you are carrying, and I am asking you to give me just 5 minutes. Give me just 5 minutes, and I promise your life will never be the same. You are so tired. It is not just physical fatigue, though I know your body aches from the tension. It is a deep, profound exhaustion of the spirit. You have been trying to hold your world together with your own 2 hands. You wake up every morning and immediately put on the heavy armor. You put on the brave face for your family, your friends, your coworkers. You smile and say you are doing fine when they ask. But inside, you feel like you are standing on a fragile pane of glass that could shatter at any second. You are surviving on willpower, hoping that if you just work harder, you can finally gain control of the chaos. But the chaos only seems to grow louder. I want you to know that I see the quiet loneliness you endure. When the house is finally silent, or when you are sitting alone in your car, before walking inside, that is when the walls close in. That is when the relentless inner critic begins to whisper that you are not doing enough, that you are entirely alone in this struggle. You feel isolated even when you are surrounded by people. You think that no one truly understands the pressure you are under, the silent tears you have wiped away before anyone could notice. But I have been there for every single one of those moments. I have never left your side. I have seen every tear, felt every ounce of your anxiety, and I have been waiting for you to simply turn toward me and exhale. The physical and mental toll of trying to be your own savior is breaking you down. You were never designed to live in a constant state of panic. You have been living in fight or flight, bracing for the next piece of bad news, waiting for the other shoe to drop. The world has told you that your worth is measured by your strength and your ability to handle everything flawlessly. So you keep adding to your endless to-do lists. You keep saying yes when you have nothing left to give. You keep pushing your own well-being to the bottom of the priority pile, believing that if you just sacrifice a little more of yourself, everything will eventually fall into place. But it is an endless treadmill. The horizon of peace keeps moving further away, and you are exhausted from the chase. Stop chasing right now. I give you absolute permission to rest. You do not have to have it all figured out right now. You do not have to know the solution to the problems waiting for you tomorrow. For these 5 minutes, the world can wait. The emails can wait. The responsibilities can wait. This is a safe space, a sanctuary carved out of time specifically for you. Close your eyes if you can. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. And as you exhale, imagine releasing just a fraction of that crushing tension. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your hands. You do not need to fight right now. You only need to be held in the safety of my presence. You might feel unworthy of this rest, or you might think your problems are too complex for a simple pause to make a difference. But the transformation I am offering you does not require you to be perfect. It only requires you to be present. I am not asking you to muster up more faith or to suddenly feel completely joyful. I am only asking you to sit in the stillness with me. Let my presence wash over you. My presence is not a demanding force. It is a gentle, comforting warmth. It is the peace that passes all human understanding. When you stop striving, when you finally lower your defenses, you create the quiet space necessary to hear my voice speaking directly to your spirit. This is not a temporary distraction. These 5 minutes are a divine appointment. I orchestrated this moment because I love you too much to let you continue living in this state of frantic desperation. I want to replace your fear with my perfect peace. I want to trade your heavy spirit for genuine hope. I want to show you that the life you have been desperately trying to build on your own is nothing compared to the freedom I have prepared for you. But it begins here in the surrender. It begins with acknowledging that your strength has brought you to the end of yourself. And the end of yourself is the exact place where my grace begins to take over completely. Let the reality of my unconditional love sink into the deepest parts of your weary mind. You have spent so much of your life trying to earn love, trying to prove your value, justifying your existence through achievements. You have measured your success by how much weight you can carry without collapsing. But in my eyes, your worth is not tied to your endurance. You do not have to be strong for me. You do not have to have the perfect words to pray. You simply have to bring those broken pieces to me and leave them at my feet, trusting that I am the ultimate restorer. Feel the atmosphere shift around you right now. The storm of your daily life is still raging outside, but you have stepped into the eye of the hurricane. Here in this sacred pause, the harsh winds cannot touch you. The demands of tomorrow hold no power over you in this precise moment. I am drawing a boundary line around your mind and your heart, commanding the waves of anxiety to be still. Listen to the silence beneath the noise. It is there, waiting for you. It is the sound of my spirit gently whispering that you are safe. You are entirely, irreversibly safe. Do you feel the subtle shift in your chest? That tiny flicker of relief taking root in your exhausted soul. That is the beginning of the transformation I promised you. It is the realization that the universe does not rest on your shoulders. The sun will rise, the world will turn, and your life will be sustained, not by your frantic efforts, but by my sovereign grace. I am the creator of all things, yet I care about the smallest details of your day. I care about the exhaustion in your eyes. I care about the worries you are too ashamed to speak aloud. You have hidden your struggles so well from the people around you, terrified that if they saw how overwhelmed you truly are, they might judge you or abandon you. But I look past the brave facade. I look straight into your heart, and I do not see a failure. I see a beloved child who has been carrying a crushing load for entirely too long. I am calling you to step completely out of the storm, not just for a fleeting second, but to make a deliberate choice to remain in this quiet sanctuary. Let go of the need to control the outcome. Let go of the timeline you have constructed in your mind. Breathe in my grace. Breathe out the fear of falling short. You do not have to perform here. You have answered the invitation to simply be still, stepping out of the raging winds and into the warmth of my embrace. The frantic fear is melting slowly, being replaced by the soft, steady rhythm of divine comfort. The grip of panic is loosening as you begin to trust that I am holding you. But to truly experience the permanent freedom I have for you, we must look at what you are still holding tightly in your hands. We must examine the heavy stones you have picked up. The crushing weight you were never meant to carry. Let us look at those hands. My child, your knuckles are white, the joints aching. Your fingers stiff from gripping so tightly for so long. You have convinced yourself that if you let go for even a single second, if you lower your guard for just one moment, everything you love will crash to the ground in ruins. You have picked up the heavy, unyielding stone of financial provision, turning it over and over in the middle of the night, trying to extract a solution from an empty well. You have picked up the jagged, sharp-edged stone of a fractured family bleeding from the effort of trying to press broken pieces back together with your own fragile strength. You have gathered up the immense weight of other people's opinions, the impossible burden of their happiness, and the crushing task of managing every possible outcome of tomorrow. I see you carrying this towering, impossible load. I watch you staggering under its density, your knees buckling, and my heart aches with a profound, unrelenting compassion for you. You were never designed to be the architect of the universe, nor were you meant to be the savior of your own life. You are a human, beautifully finite, and wonderfully dependent, but you have accepted a responsibility that belongs exclusively to me. The world has fed you a lie, and in your desperation to survive, you have swallowed it whole. It is the lie that says you must be strong enough to handle everything alone. Society praises the independent, the self-made, the ones who silently carry their trauma and their stress without ever asking for a hand. It is the relentless whisper that tells you asking for help is a sign of weakness, and that surrendering your problems means you have completely failed the people counting on you. You have been taught that if you just worry a little more, work a few more hours, or plan a little better, you can somehow outsmart the hardships of this life. But look closely at where this profound self-reliance has brought you. It has not brought you safety. It has not brought you the security you crave. It has only brought you a deep, aching weariness that settles into your very bones. It has brought you a chest constantly tight with anxiety, shallow breathing, and a mind that refuses to shut down when the sun finally sets. Your current pain is so acute, so piercing, precisely because you are trying to carry a load that was designed for a savior. You are attempting to do my job, my child, and the human frame simply cannot sustain the weight of the divine. When you try to heal a relationship that only my spirit can mend, you will end up depleted and bitter. When you try to force a door open that I have firmly closed for your protection, you will only bruise yourself against the wood. When you stay awake until 3 a.m, staring blindly at the ceiling, trying to manipulate the mathematics of your finances, or untangle the complexities of a future you cannot see, you are essentially telling me that you do not trust me to provide for you. I say this not to condemn you. I say this to gently, lovingly awaken you from the trance of your own striving. I want you to see the absolute futility of your self-reliance. You have fought so incredibly hard. You have given everything you have. And yet the problems remain. The financial hardships still loom on the horizon. The people you love still make their own complicated choices. And the future remains stubbornly out of your control. Your exhaustion is not a sign that you are inadequate or that you need to try harder. Your exhaustion is a sacred, beautiful invitation to finally surrender. It is your soul's warning light, telling you that the engine of your own strength has run completely dry. It is time to drop the stones. I know it feels terrifying to open your hands. You have operated in a posture of defensive control for so long that your emotional muscles have forgotten how to relax. You believe that your worrying is somehow keeping the disaster at bay, that your constant hypervigilant scanning of the horizon is the only thing protecting your home. But the only true safety you have ever had, and will ever have, is resting securely in my completely capable hands. I want you to imagine right now, in this very moment, standing before me and simply opening your fingers. Let the heavy stone of your financial anxiety fall to the ground. Hear it hit the dirt. You do not have to figure out the provision for next year, next month, or even tomorrow. I am your provider. The resources of heaven are not limited by the economy of your world. I know exactly what you need before you even form the words to ask, and I am already making a way where you see absolutely no way. Release the jagged stone of those broken relationships. You cannot change another person's heart. You cannot force them to see the truth, to offer an apology, or to grant you the closure you so desperately want. Hand that impossible, heartbreaking task over to me. I am the only one who can soften stone and breathe life into dry bones. As you drop these massive burdens, notice the incredible lightness that begins to rush in and replace the crushing pressure. This is the contrasting relief of divine grace. Grace is not just the forgiveness of your past mistakes. It is the daily, active, sustaining power I offer to carry your life when you cannot take another step. When you insist on carrying the load yourself, you are unknowingly blocking the grace I am trying to pour out upon you. I cannot carry what you refuse to release. I will not forcefully pry your fingers open because I have given you the beautiful, terrifying gift of free will. You must choose to lay it down. You must look at the towering mountain of your responsibilities, the frightening medical reports, the intimidating bank statements, the strained and painful conversations and say, "This is too heavy for me, but it is not too heavy for you." Let the fatigue you feel today be the catalyst for this monumental surrender. Do not resent your weariness. Do not be angry with yourself for not being stronger. Your weakness is the very thing that is driving you back into my arms. If you were truly capable of managing your life flawlessly, if you could heal every wound and supply every need from your own endless reserves, you would never know the breathtaking intimacy of depending on me. You would never know me as your comforter, your deliverer, your steady anchor in the violent storm. This weakness you despise so much is actually the open doorway to my strength. When you finally admit that you cannot do it on your own, my power is made completely perfect in your inability. So, my child, let us practice this holy surrender together right now. You do not need to figure out the mechanics of how I will solve your problems. You do not need to present me with a detailed 10-point plan for how I should intervene in your life. You only need to shift your posture, move away from the defensive, tightly coiled stance of a soldier waiting for the next brutal attack, and sink completely into the vulnerable trust of a beloved child. A young child does not lie awake at night wondering how the mortgage will be paid, how the refrigerator will be filled, or how the family will survive the year. A child simply trusts that their good father has it all firmly in hand. I am your good father. I have never dropped you. I have never abandoned you, and I am certainly not going to start now. Feel the release of that false responsibility washing out of your muscles, draining away like water into the dry earth. Allow the truth to settle over you like a thick, warm blanket. It is not your job to save the day. It never was. You were created to be loved by me, to walk with me in the cool of the day, to experience the joy of my presence, and to reflect my light into a dark world. You were not created to carry the weight of that world on your shoulders. Let the heavy stones fall one by one. The fear of failure, the exhausting pressure to perform, the desperate, unending need to fix everything and everyone around you that is broken. Let them all crash to the ground at my feet. As your hands finally empty, they are now open and fully ready to receive the true spiritual rest I have been holding out to you this entire time. Yet even as you open your hands and feel the initial wave of this incredible relief, I know the temptation remains to quickly snatch those stones back up, driven by the deeply ingrained habit of anxious planning and fear. We must confront the root of this restless urge. We must expose the grand illusion of your control and the exhausting trap of anxiety that has kept you running in endless circles. You see, my child, control is the most convincing mirage your mind has ever created. You have spent years constructing this elaborate fortress, believing that if you can just anticipate every possible outcome, you will never be caught off guard. You analyze every conversation, second-guess every decision, and map out every potential disaster before it even has the chance to form. You do this because you care. You do this because you love your family, because you desperately want to protect your future, and because the world has taught you that vulnerability is highly dangerous. But this fortress of control you have built is not keeping the danger out. It is only locking you inside with your own fear. Think about those long, silent hours of the night, when the rest of the world is deeply asleep. Your mind is a raging battlefield. You stare into the darkness, your heart racing as you play out endless scenarios of what might go wrong tomorrow. You try to mathematically calculate your survival, shifting variables, imagining conversations that have not happened, and bracing yourself for tragedies that do not even exist. You are utterly exhausted by the time the morning sun finally rises, having fought a grueling war against enemies that were entirely imaginary. This is the cruel trap of anxiety. It promises to prepare you for the worst, but all it really does is rob you of the present moment. You have mistakenly believed that your worry is a form of protection. You feel that if you stop worrying, you are somehow being irresponsible. You think your anxiety is the essential glue holding your fragile life together. But I want you to look honestly at what this tight grip has actually produced in your life. Has your constant worry ever changed a single outcome? Has agonizing over the unknown ever added a single day to your life or a single dollar to your bank account? No, my child. It has only brought you deep suffering. It has only stolen your joy, drained your physical energy, and left you feeling profoundly isolated. Let us look deeper at the spiritual isolation your anxiety has created. When you retreat into your mind to solve every crisis, you unintentionally shut me out. You treat me as a last resort, a final option to call upon only after your own frantic efforts have completely failed. This breaks my heart, not because I demand your attention, but because I see the unnecessary suffering you endure by carrying the weight alone. You sit in a crowded room, or even in a church pew, feeling completely disconnected from the people around you, locked inside an invisible cage of your own racing thoughts. Your loved ones see the tension in your jaw and the distant look in your eyes, but they cannot reach you. You are trapped in the labyrinth of your own predictions. I want to shatter that cage today. I want to pull you out of the lonely corridors of your own mind and bring you back into the vibrant, connected reality of my presence. When you rely entirely on your own understanding, you leave no room for my divine intervention. If you have already decided how a situation must be resolved, and you are frantically pulling every string to make that exact outcome happen, you are walking entirely by sight. You are living based only on what your limited human eyes can see and what your exhausted human mind can comprehend. But your vision is so incredibly narrow. You can only see the immediate obstacle standing directly in front of you. You cannot see the vast, beautiful tapestry I am weaving just beyond the horizon. I am calling you to a completely different way of living, I am calling you to walk by faith and not by sight. This is not a blind, naive ignorance of your real problems. Walking by faith means looking directly at the terrifying obstacle in front of you and actively choosing to believe that my character is infinitely greater than your crisis. It means recognizing that true safety is never found in controlling your circumstances, because circumstances in this world will always be shifting, fragile, and unpredictable. True safety is found only in the unchanging bedrock nature of who I am. I am your steadfast protector, your ultimate provider, and your fiercely loving Father. I know how deeply terrifying the unknown feels to you right now. You have been conditioned to fear what you cannot clearly define. When you look at your future and see blank pages, your anxiety rushes in to fill those pages with worst-case scenarios. But I want you to begin seeing the unknown differently. The unknown is not a dark void waiting to swallow you. The unknown is the exact canvas where my greatest miracles are painted. If you always knew every step of the journey, if you could successfully predict and manage every single detail of your life, you would have no need for me. You would never experience the breathtaking beauty of my sudden provision or the overwhelming comfort of my timely rescue. I am asking you to confront this deep-seated fear of the unknown today. I am asking you to gently pry your fingers off the steering wheel of your life. You have been gripping it so tightly that your hands are blistered and your soul is exhausted. You are terrified that if you let go, your life will immediately crash. But I am right beside you. I have always been right beside you. My hands are already on the wheel waiting for you to simply release your frantic hold. My love for you is a far better protector than your anxiety could ever be. Your worry can only imagine the storm. My love actually commands the wind and the waves to be still. Consider the sheer physical toll this illusion has taken on your body. Your shoulders are perpetually tight. Your stomach is constantly tied in knots, and your breathing is shallow. This is not how you were meant to live. This is your body reacting to a mind that is constantly projecting disaster. When I ask you to walk by faith, I am offering you a literal physical rescue. I am inviting your nervous system to finally stand down. When you trust my character over your circumstances, your heart rate naturally slows. Your muscles relax. You begin to experience a physiological peace that directly mirrors your spiritual surrender. You realize that you do not have to absorb the shock of every potential crisis because I am your shield. Think about the immense energy you spend trying to prevent disaster. You are constantly scanning the horizon for threats, living in a permanent state of high alert. This hypervigilance is burning you out. It is making you irritable with the people you love most, and it is clouding your ability to recognize the blessings I am placing right in front of you. When you are so obsessed with controlling tomorrow, you completely miss the grace I have provided for today. You miss the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a child, the quiet peace of a shared meal. Anxiety steals the profound beauty of the present moment by forcing you to live in the terror of a future that may never even arrive. Let go of the desperate need to understand everything. You do not need to have all the answers to have peace. You only need to know the one who holds the answers. Your human mind, as brilliant and beautiful as I created it to be, is simply not equipped to comprehend the infinite complexities of the universe. When you try to force your mind to do so, it breaks down under the strain. That is the mental exhaustion you are feeling. It is the painful friction of a finite mind trying to perform an infinite task. Release the heavy burden of having to figure it all out. I want to break down these defensive walls of self-preservation you have built. I know they were constructed out of deep pain. I know you built them because you were hurt in the past, because life felt violently out of control, and you silently vowed never to let yourself be that vulnerable again. You thought these walls would keep you safe, but they have only kept you imprisoned. They have kept my peace from fully penetrating your heart. You cannot experience genuine spiritual rest while simultaneously trying to manage the universe. Surrender is not a sign of defeat. It is the ultimate act of courage. It is the brave decision to say, I do not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. The transition from control to surrender feels like stepping off a cliff in the dark. I completely understand the vertigo of letting go. Your logic screams that if you do not hold on, you will fall. But I promise you, the moment you step off the ledge of your own understanding, you will not fall. You will be caught. You will land softly in the center of my unyielding grace. You will find that the very thing you were terrified to lose your illusion of control was actually the very thing suffocating your joy. The freedom you find in genuine surrender is so vast, so incredibly expansive, that you will wonder why you held onto your chains for so long. This is the pathway to finding lasting comfort. It is not found in a sudden influx of money, a perfect medical report, or the sudden resolution of all your relational conflicts. Those things are temporary, and if your peace is tied to them, your peace will shatter the moment a new problem inevitably arises. Lasting comfort is found in the absolute unshakable certainty that you are deeply loved and fiercely protected by the Creator of all things. When you truly anchor your heart in my character, the storms of life lose their power to terrify you. The winds may blow, the rain may fall, but your foundation remains entirely secure. So breathe in, my child. Take another deep, intentional breath. With this exhale, release the exhausting need to know what happens next. Release the suffocating grip of prediction. Let the mirage of control completely dissolve into the air. You are safe in the unknown, because I am already there, waiting for you. You are held by a love that is infinitely stronger than your deepest fears. As the noise of your anxiety finally begins to quiet down, as the frantic spinning of your mind begins to slow, a new space is opening up within you. It is a quiet, sacred space, completely cleared of the clutter of your worry. And it is in this newly hollowed-out stillness, free from the chaotic demands of your own understanding, that you will finally be able to hear something entirely different. You will hear the sound of a love that has been calling your name since before you took your first breath. My child, learning to hear. My voice is not about striving for a higher spiritual plane, deciphering complicated codes, or unlocking a hidden secret that only a few possess. It is simply about learning how to listen. For so long, your ears have been tuned exclusively to the loud, abrasive frequencies of a world that never stops rushing. You have been continuously bombarded by voices that demand your immediate attention. They shout your insecurities at you through the glowing screens you stare at late into the night, through the impossible expectations of the people around you, and through the relentless, unforgiving ticking of the clock. These worldly voices are always urgent, always panicked, and always critical. They tell you that you are falling behind, that you are not quite enough, and that you must constantly prove your worth through your achievements. They are deafening, and they thrive on your exhaustion, keeping you running on a treadmill of endless pursuit. But I do not shout over the chaos. I do not compete with the frantic screaming of your anxiety or the harsh demands of your culture. Think of the times you have stood outside during a raging violent storm, when the wind is howling against the windows and the thunder is shaking the very ground beneath your feet. It is completely impossible to hear the gentle rustle of the leaves or the soft song of a bird hidden in the branches. You have been living your daily life in the middle of a constant internal thunderstorm, Your fears have been the howling wind. Your desperate attempts to control tomorrow have been the thunder, and the demands of your schedule have been the torrential rain. And in the middle of that deafening storm, you have cried out to me, wondering why I felt so incredibly distant. You have wept quietly into your pillow, asking why I was completely silent, while your world felt like it was fracturing into pieces. You have sat in crowded rooms and felt utterly abandoned, wondering if you had done something wrong to push me away. You questioned if your faith was simply too weak, if your prayers were using the wrong words, or if I had finally grown tired of your struggles and turned my back on you entirely. You felt the agonizing sting of spiritual isolation, believing that the silence you were experiencing was a sign of my absence. I want to speak the absolute unchanging truth into your weary heart. Right now, I have never been silent. Not for a single fleeting second of your life. I have been walking beside you through every dark, terrifying hallway, sitting with you in every sterile, quiet waiting room, and standing with you in every solitary moment of despair. My voice has always been there, steady, loving, and true. But the noise of your fear was simply too loud. You were listening for me in the earthquake of sudden, massive resolutions. You were waiting for me to speak through the blazing fire of dramatic miracles or the rushing wind of instantaneous overnight change. You wanted me to split the sky and loudly declare the solution to all your problems. But I so often choose to speak in the quiet stillness. I come in the gentle, steady whisper. Have you ever wondered why someone whispers, a person shouts to be heard across a vast distance, to command the attention of a distracted crowd, or to intimidate someone into submission? But a whisper is entirely different. A whisper requires closeness. It requires you to stop moving, to lean in, and to bring your ear near to the speaker's lips. A whisper is the language of profound intimacy. I whisper to you because I am not a distant, untouchable dictator shouting cold orders from a faraway throne in the sky. I am right here, intimately close to your broken, exhausted heart. I want you to lean into me. I want you to stop frantically searching the distant horizon for a massive, spectacular sign and simply rest your heavy head against my chest. When you deliberately quiet your mind, when you intentionally turn down the deafening volume of the world's demands and the relentless accusations of your own inner critic, you will begin to feel the tangible reality of my presence right where you are. It is a presence that completely envelops you, bringing a profound warmth to the cold spaces of your doubt. And it is a presence that does not ask you to perform. The world looks at you and constantly asks, what can you produce today? What can you achieve? How can you prove your value? But when I look at you, I simply say, you are deeply, eternally loved. There is absolutely no performance required to earn my attention. You do not need to clean yourself up perfectly, organize your scattered thoughts, or present a flawless resume of spiritual accomplishments to sit in this quiet space with me. You do not need to pretend you have it all together. You only need to come exactly as you are, weary, bruised, and carrying the dust of the road. Feel the overwhelming contrast right now between the heavy, suffocating pressure of the world and the light, soothing balm of my truth. The world drives you relentlessly with the whip of inadequacy. I lead you gently with the staff of deep compassion. The world tells you to hurry up because time is running out. I tell you to be still because I am already holding eternity, and your life is perfectly safe within it. As you tune your heart to the gentle frequency of my whisper, you will notice a profound, beautiful shift taking place deep within your spirit. You are moving away from the exhausting posture of a frantic seeker. You are no longer the desperate traveler running wildly through the desert, hunting for a hidden oasis of peace before you collapse. Instead, you are transitioning into a posture of receptive, peaceful attention. You are realizing that you do not have to hunt for peace, because the Prince of Peace has already taken up residence within you. You are allowing my comfort to find you. You are becoming a vessel open and still ready to be filled with the quiet, unshakable assurance that I am actively working all things together for your absolute good. How do you practically quiet these loud voices that have dominated your life for so long? It begins by recognizing their source and refusing to give them your agreement. When the harsh voice of doubt tells you that your situation is entirely hopeless and that nothing will ever change, I want you to pause, take a breath, and listen beneath the noise. Beneath that loud accusation, there is my gentle whisper, reminding you that I have conquered the world, and absolutely nothing is beyond my power of redemption. When the familiar voice of insecurity tells you that you are unlovable, broken beyond repair, or a burden to those around you, lean in and hear my whisper telling you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Listen as I tell you that you are my cherished masterpiece, held securely in the palm of my hand, and that I delight in you exactly as you are. You are learning to distinguish between the harsh, critical tone of the enemy and the warm, patient-loving tone of your Creator. This practice of listening is a deliberate daily choice. It is the brave decision to sit in your car for 1 extra minute before walking into a stressful workplace just to let my quiet presence wash over your mind. It is the choice to leave the radio off on your drive home, allowing the silence to become a sacred sanctuary rather than an uncomfortable void that desperately needs to be filled with noise. It is the gentle release of your tight grip on your phone when you first wake up in the morning, choosing to greet my presence before you greet the chaotic demands of 100 incoming messages. As you practice this quiet surrender, the tangible sense of my presence will grow stronger and more undeniable every single day. It will no longer feel like a distant, abstract theological concept that you merely read about. It will become a deeply felt living reality in your everyday life. You will begin to notice my quiet guidance in the most ordinary, mundane routines. You will feel a sudden, unexplainable sense of peace washing over you while you are standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes. You will hear a quiet reassurance while folding the laundry in the evening. You will feel a gentle, loving nudge to reach out to a friend, or a sudden clarity on a decision that has been paralyzing you for weeks. The more you choose to listen to my whisper, the more the chaotic, demanding voices of the world will lose their false authority over you. They will still try to speak, of course, but their volume will fade into the distant background, no longer capable of controlling your heartbeat or dictating your mood. You will find yourself anchored deeply in an unshakable truth that no worldly circumstance, no piece of bad news, and no unexpected hardship can alter. This is the soothing balm your tired soul has been desperately craving for so long. You are finally allowing yourself to simply be loved, just as you are, right in the middle of your beautifully unfinished story. But as this beautiful stillness settles deeply into your spirit, and as the frantic noise of your anxiety finally fades into a quiet hush, the silence often reveals the hidden things you have tried so hard to bury beneath the busyness of your life. In this newfound quiet, the old memories and lingering shadows of your past will often rise to the surface, seeking the very healing you are now ready to receive. To step fully into the complete freedom I have prepared for you, we must now turn our gentle attention to the heavy chains that have bound you for far too long, looking closely at the deep wounds, the unspoken regrets, and the quiet guilt that still tether your heart to the places you have already left behind. I see how quickly your mind races backward the moment the present noise fades. When the frantic busyness of your day finally stops, the silent ghosts of your past step quietly into the room. I know the exact memories that make you wince when you are entirely alone. I see the invisible reel of your worst moments that you force yourself to watch over and over in the quiet hours of the night. You mentally replay the harsh words you desperately wish you could take back, the panicked decisions that altered the course of your life, and the times you felt you completely failed the people who needed you most. You have mistakenly allowed these painful memories to become your core identity. You look at the grand sum of your mistakes, and you quietly conclude that you are fundamentally flawed, broken beyond repair, and somehow entirely unworthy of the very love I'm offering you right now. My child, you have been living in a self-constructed prison of shame. You have appointed yourself as both the ruthless judge and the condemned prisoner, handing down a lifetime sentence of guilt for things I completely forgave the exact moment you first brought them to me. You walk through your days carrying this heavy, dark cloak of unworthiness, silently believing that if you just punish yourself a little more, if you just carry the miserable guilt long enough, you might somehow repay the spiritual debt of your past. But your endless self-punishment does not heal your heart, and it certainly does not bring peace to the people around you. It only keeps you locked securely in a cycle of profound spiritual defeat. I did not design your beautifully complex heart to function under the crushing, suffocating weight of yesterday's regrets. Look closely at the broken relationships that still physically ache in your chest, the deep friendships that faded into awkward silence, the family ties that violently snapped under the pressure of misunderstanding, the loved ones you feel you irrevocably let down. You carry the sorrow of those fractured bonds as if every broken piece was entirely your fault. You hold on to the agonizing apologies that were never spoken and the forgiveness that was never granted. You harbor a quiet bitterness toward those who walked away, but even deeper than that, you harbor a ruthless, unforgiving bitterness toward yourself. You believe that because your story contains dark chapters of failure, the entire book is somehow ruined. You have tragically confused your moments of human weakness with your permanent, eternal worth. I want to lift your chin and have you look directly into my eyes. You are not the sum of your worst mistakes. You are not the terrible failures that keep you awake at night. And you are absolutely not the shameful labels that the enemy has tried to whisper over your weary life. When I look at you, I do not see a collection of embarrassing regrets. I see my precious child covered completely and entirely by my grace. The forgiveness I offer is not a fragile temporary truce. It is an absolute, final, and eternal cleansing of your soul. When I wash you clean, I do not leave a sticky residue of guilt for you to carry. I remove your transgressions as far as the east is from the west. They are buried in the deepest ocean, never to be brought up against you again. Why then do you keep diving back into those dark, cold waters to retrieve the very chains I have already unlocked? Why do you stubbornly insist on wearing the heavy shackles of your past when the door to your cell is standing wide open? I am gently commanding you today to drop the heavy stones of regret you have been carrying in your pockets. Take them out, one by one. The stone of that parenting mistake that still haunts you. Drop it. The stone of that financial ruin from years ago. Drop it. The stone of that relationship you could not save, and the harsh words spoken in terrible anger. Let them all fall to the floor. Hear them clatter against the ground, completely stripped of their power to condemn or define you. You have been holding on to your pain because it feels so incredibly familiar. Sometimes the familiar ache of an old, deep wound feels much safer than the terrifying vulnerability of actual healing. You have believed the insidious lie that your guilt somehow protects you from making the same mistakes again, that your shame is a necessary armor keeping you vigilant. But shame is not a shield, my child. It is a heavy, rusted anchor, dragging you straight to the bottom of a dark sea. It drains your spiritual vitality completely, paralyzes your faith, and leaves you exhausted, staring backward at a road you can no longer travel. You cannot walk forward into the miraculous, abundant future I have prepared for you. If your head is constantly turned around, mourning a past you cannot change. It is time to let the liberating joy of my absolute mercy wash over you. Feel the physical sensation of this profound relief right now. It starts deep in your chest. A sudden, beautiful lightness, where there used to be a dense, heavy knot of dread. As you finally release the unforgiveness you have harbored toward yourself, the air in your lungs suddenly feels cleaner. The atmosphere around you brightens. This is the magnificent, undeniable reality of being washed completely clean. You are standing under the waterfall of my grace, and it is washing away the soot, the dirt, and the ashes of your old failures. You are stepping out of the dark, suffocating tomb of your regrets and walking into the brilliant, warm light of my total acceptance. I give you new mercies every single morning, before your feet even touch the floor, before you have the chance to earn anything or prove your worth to the world. My grace is already waiting to sustain you. But here is the spiritual reality. You must understand. You cannot receive the fresh, beautiful blessings of today if your hands are tightly clenched around the painful ashes of yesterday. If your heart is full of the toxic debris of past failures, there is simply no room for the hope, the peace, and the profound miracles I am trying to pour into you. You must empty the vessel. You must consciously choose to let the past remain in the past, trusting that my redemption is powerful enough to use even your deepest mistakes for your ultimate good. Nothing in your history is wasted. Even the darkest, most terrifying valleys you walk through, even the terrible missteps, and the painfully long detours are being woven together by my hands into a tapestry of breathtaking grace. When you finally release your tight, fearful grip on your regrets, you allow me to transform your entire history of failure into a powerful living testimony of survival and redemption. The very areas where you felt the most intense, isolating shame will become the exact places where my light shines the brightest and brings healing to others. You will soon be able to look back, not with a crushing sense of guilt that steals your breath, but with a profound, overwhelming gratitude for the fierce mercy that reached down and pulled you safely out of the wreckage. So breathe in this clean, fresh air, my child. Feel the absolute freedom of a completely clean slate. The ledger against you has been wiped entirely blank. There is no lingering disappointment in my gaze when I look at you. There is only fierce, unwavering love and a deep, proud joy that you are mine. You are standing on solid ground now, free from the sinking sand of your old shame. Your heart has been swept clean of the toxic bitterness and the heavy, exhausting debris of self-hatred. You are finally empty of the pain of the past, which means you are finally ready to be filled with the brilliant promise of your future. This clean slate is the essential foundation for the incredible transformation that is about to unfold in your life. You have stepped out of the storm of your daily chaos. You have laid down the crushing responsibility of trying to control the universe. And now, you have been washed completely free from the heavy chains of your past. Your spirit is lighter. Your hands are empty. And your eyes are finally looking forward instead of backward. But as you stand here in this beautiful, pristine stillness, waiting for the promised breakthrough to suddenly appear, the answers may not arrive in the exact second you expect them. You will find yourself looking into the quiet expanse ahead, and you will need to learn how to hold on to this newfound peace, even when the horizon still looks entirely empty. I know the unique specific ache of staring into that empty horizon. My child, when you have done the hard, painful work of releasing your past, when you have finally emptied your hands of all your frantic control and laid your burdens at my feet, there is often a profound, stretching silence that follows. You have prayed the desperate, tear-filled prayers. You have made the incredibly brave choice to surrender your heaviest worries. And now, you are standing in the quiet, looking for the immediate reward of that surrender. You expect the dark clouds to part instantly. You expect the phone to ring with the perfect job offer, the medical test to suddenly come back clear, or the fractured, broken relationship to be magically restored by nightfall. And when the sun sets, the shadows lengthen, and absolutely nothing in your physical reality has changed. A new, very specific kind of pain begins to set in. It is the agonizing pain of the waiting room. It is the heavy, dragging frustration of delayed answers. I see how you sit by the window, watching the days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into long, exhausting months, feeling an uncomfortable tightness creeping back into your chest. You wonder if your prayers hit the ceiling and bounce back down to the floor. You wonder if I am simply ignoring you. You watch other people receive their breakthroughs, celebrating their sudden miracles, and a quiet, heartbreaking whisper tells you that you have been completely skipped over, left behind in the dark, while the rest of the world moves forward into the light. Please hear me. I do not condemn you for the deep frustration you feel in this quiet season. I know exactly how difficult it is to live in the agonizing, uncomfortable space between the promise and the fulfillment. I see the creeping doubt that threatens to overtake your hope when the silence stretches on far longer than you ever prepared for. It is in these dark, uneventful hours that the enemy returns, not with loud, terrifying accusations, but with quiet, insidious questions. He whispers that your faith was just foolish, naive optimism. He suggests that if I truly loved you, if I truly cared about the tears you have cried, I would have rushed to your rescue the very first time you asked. The sheer endurance required to simply wake up every single morning, put your feet on the floor, and face the exact same unresolved problem can drain the absolute last reserves of your emotional energy. You feel like you are walking through a vast, dry desert, completely parched, scanning the endless sand for just one small drop of evidence that I am actually doing something. You feel forgotten, overlooked, and utterly exhausted. But I want to completely shift your perspective on this darkness you are walking through. I want to show you that you are not being buried. You are being planted. When a seed is placed into the earth, it is covered in absolute darkness. From the perspective of the seed, it feels like a total burial. There is no sunlight, no visible movement, and no immediate sign of life. The heavy dirt presses down on it from every side. If you were to stand above it and stare at the surface of the soil, you would think that absolutely nothing is happening, that the seed has simply died and been forgotten. But beneath the dirt, completely out of sight, from the demanding, impatient eyes of the world, a brilliant, violent, and incredibly beautiful transformation is taking place. The seed is breaking open. It is shedding its hard, protective outer shell. It is pushing vulnerable roots deep into the ground, searching for the hidden water, anchoring itself firmly into a foundation that cannot be easily moved. If that seed were forced to sprout above the ground before its roots were firmly established, the very first strong wind of a storm would completely destroy it. The scorching heat of the midday sun would wither it in a single afternoon. The dark season, the quiet season, is not a time of abandonment. It is a time of deep, vital, absolutely essential root building. You are in the dark soil right now. You are crying out for the visible growth, begging to break through the surface, so you can breathe, so everyone can see that you have survived. But I am asking you to trust the darkness. I am asking you to allow me to build your roots so incredibly deep that when the blessing finally comes, you will actually have the spiritual strength and the emotional capacity to sustain it. I am actively working behind the scenes of your life, orchestrating 1,000 tiny, intricate details that you cannot possibly see or comprehend. You view your situation through the narrow, limited keyhole of this present moment. But I am looking at the vast, sweeping blueprint of your entire existence. If I gave you the immediate solution you are demanding right now, it would be a fragile, incomplete fix. It would be entirely out of season, a temporary patch over a wound that needs deep, permanent healing. You naturally want a shortcut out of the discomfort because your human nature avoids pain. But shortcuts always bypass the essential places of preparation. Sometimes I am delaying the answer because the environment you are walking into is not quite ready for you yet. Sometimes I am waiting for another person's heart to soften, carefully dismantling their pride so that reconciliation can actually last. Sometimes the provision you need is already on its way, but it must pass through the necessary channels of time to reach you at the exact precise moment it will do the most incredible good. My timing is never lazy. My timing is never accidental, and I am never late. My timing is an expression of my perfect, fiercely protective love for you. When you demand instant gratification, you are unknowingly asking me to compromise the beautiful masterpiece I'm crafting. I will not give you something prematurely, just to temporarily soothe your anxiety, because I love you far too much to hand you a blessing that would ultimately crush you under its unready weight. I want you to transform how you wait. I want you to step completely out of the posture of passive, hopeless endurance, where you are simply holding your breath, gritting your teeth, and surviving until the pain stops. I am calling you into an active, courageous faith. Active faith does not mean you stop hurting, and it certainly does not mean you put on a fake smile and pretend everything is perfect. Active faith means you wake up in the middle of the unresolved mess. You look at the silent horizon, and you declare, I do not see the evidence yet, but I completely trust the author of my story. It means you continue to show up. You continue to love your family. You continue to do the quiet, unglamorous work of your daily life. And you continue to pray, knowing that your endurance is never, ever wasted. Every single day you choose to trust me in the dark, a new spiritual muscle is being forged within you. You are developing a profound resilience that simply cannot be taught in seasons of ease and comfort. You are moving away from a shallow, fragile faith that only praises me when the sun is shining, and you are stepping into a profound, unshakable spiritual maturity that can stand firm in the absolute middle of a hurricane. The answers you are desperately waiting for will absolutely come. My child, the provision will arrive, the healing will manifest, and the bright morning light will finally break through this long, exhausting night. I have not forgotten a single promise I have made to you, but the greatest work I am doing right now is not the sudden shifting of your external circumstances. The greatest, most magnificent work is happening quietly, beautifully, right inside your own chest. I am teaching you that you can actually experience a profound sense of joy while the problem is still entirely unsolved. I am showing you how to breathe deeply, how to sleep soundly, and how to smile genuinely while you are still sitting squarely in the waiting room. As your roots dig deeper into my love, you are discovering a foundational truth that will forever change the way you navigate this broken world. You are about to realize that the internal peace I am cultivating within you right now is infinitely more valuable and far more miraculous than any instant gratification could ever be for so much of your life. My child, you have operated under a quiet, unspoken condition. You have told yourself, I will finally be able to breathe when the debt is paid. I will finally be able to rest when the medical test comes back clear. I will finally have joy when this broken relationship is fully repaired. You have placed your peace on a distant shelf, guarding it behind the locked door of a future resolution. You have unknowingly chained your inner joy to the unpredictable, constantly shifting circumstances of this broken world. But I am asking you to do something radically different today. I am asking you to stop waiting for your life to be perfectly resolved before you allow yourself to rest. I am inviting you to detach your peace from your physical reality, because true spiritual victory does not happen when the storm finally breaks. True, unshakable victory happens when you learn to sleep soundly in the absolute middle of the raging waves. This is the crucial pivot of your entire journey. You must understand this foundational principle. My peace must come before my miracle. If I were to suddenly rush in and fix every external problem in your life right now, if I filled your bank account, healed every ache in your body, and perfectly aligned every difficult person around you, you would feel an intense, overwhelming surge of relief. But it would only be temporary. Why? Because the very next time a crisis arose, the very next time an unexpected bill arrived, or a conflict flared up, your foundation would immediately crumble again. I do not want to merely give you a temporary reprieve from your stress. I want to permanently cure the disease of your fear. And that permanent cure requires your foundation to be built on absolute trust in me, rather than a reliance on temporary circumstantial blessings. To build that foundation, we must find sanctuary right here, directly amidst the unresolved chaos. I know the bills are still sitting there on your kitchen counter unpaid and demanding. I know the diagnosis is still hovering in the air, filled with frightening uncertainties. I know the conversation you had last week still stings, and the silence from someone you love is painfully loud. The physical reality of your struggle has not yet changed, but I am standing right here with you in the living room, inviting you into a sacred shelter that the chaos simply cannot penetrate. You do not need to escape your physical location to find the sanctuary. You only need to shift the gaze of your heart. When you stop staring obsessively at the towering waves and lock your eyes entirely on me, the wind loses its power to terrify you, to terrify. Think about what it would feel like to look at a terrifyingly low bank balance and not spiral into a paralyzing panic attack. Imagine sitting in a sterile doctor's office, waiting for the results of a test, and feeling a slow, steady warmth in your chest, instead of an icy dread. Imagine lying in bed at night, thinking about the loved one who has wandered away, and instead of weeping with helpless anxiety, you simply whisper their name into my hands and fall into a deep, restorative sleep. This is not apathy. My child, this is not a state of denial, pretending that the pain does not exist, or that the stakes are not incredibly high. It is the profound supernatural evidence of a heart that has been completely detached from the tyranny of outcomes. When you can experience that level of calm while the threat is still actively present, you have achieved the greatest spiritual victory possible. You have completely neutralized the enemy's most effective weapon against you. The enemy uses fear to try and separate you from my love. He points at your empty hands and your unresolved pain, whispering that you are vulnerable and exposed. But when you look at those same empty hands, lift them in worship, and declare that I am entirely enough for you, the enemy loses all leverage. Your anxiety begins to literally starve to death because it no longer has the fuel of your desperate need for control to feed upon. You are proving that your joy is not dependent on what I can do for you, but is anchored completely in who I am. This requires a profound shift in your focus. For a very long time, you have been seeking the outcome far more passionately than you have been seeking the provider. You have treated my presence as a means to an end, a doorway you must walk through to get to the miracle you actually want. But I am not merely a vehicle to deliver your blessings. I am the destination. I am the greatest treasure you will ever possess. When the relationship between you and me becomes the central, most vital reality of your existence, the desperate, agonizing torture of the waiting room loses its grip on your soul. You realize that even if the physical provision is delayed for another week, another month, or another year, you are not deprived because you have me. And in having me, you possess absolutely everything you need to survive and thrive. As you embrace this shift, the emotional intensity of your daily life will begin to change. You will begin to notice a quiet, steady strength rising up within your spirit. It is the realization that the peace I am offering you right now, in the very middle of the darkness, is actually the greatest miracle of all. Think about it carefully. A sudden financial windfall could be spent and lost. A sudden physical healing could eventually be followed by a different illness years down the road. But this deep, unshakable internal peace, this ability to remain completely secure, no matter what the world throws at you, is a permanent, eternal gift. It is a fortress that no economic collapse, no terrible diagnosis, and no relational heartbreak can ever tear down. You are receiving the most profound miracle before the physical provision even arrives. I want you to let that truth settle deeply into your bones. The peace is the prize. The peace is the breakthrough. You have been begging for a change in your circumstances, but I am giving you a change in your very nature. I am teaching you to walk on the water instead of constantly struggling to keep your head above the waves. When you learn to walk on the water with me, it no longer matters how deep the ocean is or how fierce the storm becomes. Your safety is guaranteed by my grip on your hand, not by the calmness of the sea. By choosing to embrace my peace before the external situation is resolved, you are preparing the soil of your heart to properly handle the blessings that are coming. If I poured the physical provision into a heart that was still frantically driven by anxiety, that blessing would quickly become a new source of terror. You would instantly begin worrying about how to protect it, how to manage it, and how to prevent it from slipping away. You would exchange the fear of lack for the fear of loss. But because you are learning to find your complete sanctuary in me first, you will be able to receive the coming breakthroughs with open, relaxed hands. You will recognize them as beautiful gifts from your Father, but you will not idolize them as the source of your security. Your foundation is being poured in the solid concrete of absolute trust. So breathe deeply right here, right now, in the middle of the unresolved tension. Let the chaotic demands of the world swirl around you, but refuse to let them inside the sacred space we have built together. You are safe. The bank account does not define your survival. I do. The medical report does not dictate your future. I do. The brokenness of others does not determine your worth. My love for you does. The external physical breakthroughs you have been praying for are indeed on the horizon, but today you do not need them for your joy. You only need this moment, this quiet breath, and the absolute certainty of my steady presence walking beside you. Feel the heavy, suffocating blanket of your lifelong anxiety finally lifting off your shoulders. The frantic need to rush ahead and fix everything is melting away, replaced by a grounded, powerful stillness. You have discovered the profound secret of finding peace before the provision, and in doing so, you have forever changed the trajectory of your spiritual journey. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances, desperately reacting to every shifting shadow. You are now stepping onto higher ground, ready to walk forward, not with trembling knees, but with a bold, proactive confidence. And as this deep peace solidifies within your heart, you are fully prepared to make the active daily choice to operate from a place of unshakable conviction, rather than retreating back into the familiar shadows of your former panic. This newly claimed peace is not merely a quiet refuge where you hide from the world. It is the very foundation upon which you are now learning to build a life of courageous action. You have spent so much of your life operating from a place of defense, constantly bracing for the next blow, constantly shrinking back to avoid further damage. But that posture of survival is no longer your identity. My child, you are shifting into a stance of spiritual confidence, one that is not derived from the absence of challenges, but from the unwavering presence of the one who walks through those challenges with you. When you feel the familiar prickling sensation of old anxieties beginning to rise, when the phone rings at an unexpected hour, or when a new problem arises in your day, I am asking you to notice that reaction, but refuse to let it become your conclusion. You are no longer required to dance to the rhythm of your fear. I know how tempting it is to fall back into the well-worn paths of panic. Your brain has been wired for years to sound the alarm at the slightest sign of trouble, and those old neural pathways feel incredibly safe and familiar, even though they have only ever led you to exhaustion. When you feel that sudden sharp spike of dread, recognize it for what it is, a relic of your old life. It is not a prophetic warning. It is merely an echo of a past that no longer holds dominion over you. In those moments, I am inviting you to stop, take an intentional breath, and pivot. Instead of letting your mind race toward the worst-case scenario, intentionally pause and ask yourself what my word says about that exact situation. This is the daily, moment-by-moment work of a renewed mind. It is not about pretending the threat doesn't exist. It is about choosing to believe that my promises for your life are more substantial and more real than the temporary problem sitting in front of you. Consider the times this week when you felt that surge of panic, but managed to catch it before it consumed you. Maybe it was an unexpected bill that arrived in the mail, or a harsh critique you received at work. In the past, that would have triggered a spiral of sleeplessness and spiraling thoughts. But this time you paused. You acknowledged the pressure, you brought it to me in a short, silent prayer, and you chose to keep moving forward. Do not overlook these small, invisible victories. They are the evidence that a profound spiritual transformation is already taking root. You are learning to override the instinct of fear with the decision of faith. Faith is not the absence of fear. My child, it is the courageous decision to trust me, despite the very real shaking in your knees. It is stepping forward into the unknown, not because you feel entirely brave, but because you know I am already there, waiting for you on the other side. I want you to begin intentionally curating the landscape of your thoughts. You have been the victim of your own mind for far too long, allowing every passing doubt and every intrusive worry to set up camp and take over. You are the steward of your own mind, and I am calling you to guard it with vigilance. When an anxious thought enters, what if this doesn't work out? Or, what if I can't handle this? Do not treat it as an objective truth. Treat it as an uninvited guest. You have the power through my spirit to examine that thought, hold it up to the light of my promises, and decide whether or not to give it residence. If it is not a thought rooted in my character, if it is not a thought that leads you back to hope, then it has no authority in your life. Replace that fearful thought with the truth. If you are struggling with a thought of lack, replace it with the truth of my provision. If you are struggling with a thought of rejection, replace it with the truth of my unconditional, unwavering love. This act of replacement is how you rewire your heart. It is the steady, diligent cultivation of a mind that is fixed on the eternal rather than the temporary. It will feel strange at first, almost like speaking a new, difficult language. You will feel awkward and perhaps even a bit foolish as you practice talking back to your doubts. But I assure you, it is the most vital training you can undertake. You are forging a new resilient path through the dense forest of your own uncertainty. Every time you consciously choose to trust me rather than give in to the urge to panic, you are making that path wider and more accessible for the next time. You are building a spiritual muscle that will eventually make the decision to trust your default setting, your natural response, even when the storms of life arrive with renewed intensity. Look at how much lighter you are moving through your day, even when the same old pressures remain. You are developing a different kind of strength, not the rigid, brittle strength of the self-reliant, but the flexible, enduring strength of the surrendered. You are learning that you do not need to possess the full solution to every problem to be perfectly at peace. You only need to be connected to the source of every solution. This is the proactive stance I am calling you to adopt. Do not wait for the breakthrough to happen before you decide to act like a person of faith. Start acting like it now. Carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are deeply and completely loved. Speak with the grace of someone who knows that their future is already secure in my hands. These small daily choices are rapidly solidifying your spiritual resilience. You are no longer just reacting to the winds of circumstance. You are standing firm in the truth of who I am, regardless of what the weather looks like. And because you are changing, because you are consistently choosing faith over the easy, comfortable slide into panic, you are becoming exactly the kind of person who is prepared to receive the blessings I have planned. You are becoming a person who can hold the weight of restoration without it breaking you. You are becoming a person who understands that the miracle is not just the event you are waiting for, but the person you are becoming while you wait. You are fully prepared to recognize the blessings that are beginning to dawn on the horizon. But I do not want you to rush toward them. I want you to continue walking at this steady, deliberate pace. The breakthroughs are coming, but they are not the point of your life. The relationship you have with me is the point. Your willingness to change, your commitment to the daily renewal of your mind, and your courage to trust me in the face of your fear. These are the real treasures. You have traveled a long way from the desperate, lonely, exhausted child who stopped running in those first few minutes. Look at how much ground you have covered. Look at how much quieter your heart has become. You have laid the groundwork, you have built the roots, and you have cultivated the resilience required for the next season. Now, as you continue to walk in this newfound confidence, you will find that the practical, everyday realities of your life, the work, the family, the finances, the future are finally beginning to align with the beautiful lasting peace that you have so bravely claimed as your own. This beautiful lasting peace is not meant to be kept in a sterile glass jar, admired from a distance, but never touched by the grit of your actual life. It is meant to be the solid floor you walk upon, right in the middle of your messy, unpredictable daily routine. My child, I want you to take this newfound confidence and begin actively building upon it. We are going to do this together side by side as partners in the restoration of your life. For so long you have operated in absolute isolation, dragging the heavy cart of your responsibilities up a steep hill, while I watched you refuse my help. But from this moment forward, we walk in tandem. You are no longer navigating the turbulent waters of your family dynamics, your career, and your fragile self-worth as a solitary captain, trying to outrun a storm. You are learning the gentle, steady rhythm of walking with me, stepping only where I step, and allowing me to set the pace of your days. Look at the spaces in your life that have been fractured by your profound stress. I know how the exhaustion has spilled over onto the people you love the most. I have seen the sharp, impatient words you spoke at the dinner table, not because you lacked love, but because your internal reserves were completely empty. I have seen the dread that washes over you when you pull into the parking lot at your workplace, feeling the heavy, suffocating weight of demands that never seem to end. The stress has slowly eroded the joy of your home and the purpose in your work, leaving you feeling like a hollow shell, simply going through the motions of survival. But as we begin this gentle process of rebuilding, I am not asking you to suddenly manufacture endless enthusiasm or perfectly fix every strained relationship by tomorrow morning. I am only asking you to bring my peace into those specific rooms. Rebuilding a life on a foundation of trust does not look like a massive, dramatic construction project accompanied by loud fanfare. It looks incredibly ordinary. It looks like pausing for 3 seconds with your hand on the doorknob before you walk into your house after a long day, consciously choosing to leave your residual anxiety on the porch. It looks like looking your spouse or your child in the eye and truly listening to them rather than calculating your next task while they speak. It is the brave, quiet decision to respond to a frustrating email at work with measured grace rather than immediate defensive panic. These are not grand theatrical gestures, my child. They are the small, deliberate, beautiful bricks of intentional living. Every time you choose patience over irritation, every time you choose presence over distraction, you are physically manifesting your renewed faith in the tangible world. To sustain this intentional living, you must embrace the profound necessity of daily dependence. You have spent years trying to hoard enough energy, enough money, and enough contingency plans to secure your life for the next decade. But I do not dispense my grace in decades. I provide it in daily, perfect portions. Just as your physical body requires fresh nourishment every single day, your spirit requires the daily bread of my presence. My mercies are entirely new every single morning. When you open your eyes to the dawn, there is a fresh, untouched reservoir of patience, waiting specifically for the challenges of that particular day. You do not have to worry if you will have enough strength for next Thursday. When next Thursday arrives, the grace for it will be sitting there waiting for you. By living strictly in the boundary of today, you eliminate the crushing weight of tomorrow's unwritten problems. As you lean into this daily rhythm, you will find that the most profound rebuilding is happening right inside your own sense of self-worth. For years, you have viewed yourself through the cracked, distorted mirror of your productivity and your failures. You believed that if you were not actively fixing a crisis, you were somehow useless. But as you step away from the exhausting cycle of survival mode, you are beginning to see yourself through my eyes. You are rediscovering the person you were before the heavy burdens of life convinced you that you were nothing more than a beast of burden. You are allowed to have desires, You are allowed to have quiet moments where you achieve absolutely nothing. Your worth is firmly established in your identity as my beloved, not in the length of your completed task list. Accepting this truth is the cornerstone of the trust we are building together. This is what a true partnership with me looks and feels like. It is a shared yoke that is incredibly easy and a burden that is remarkably light. When you try to rush ahead attempting to force outcomes and manipulate timelines, the yoke immediately becomes heavy again, chafing your spirit and reminding you that you have stepped out of sync with me. But when you slow down and match my unhurried pace, you realize that you never have to force a single door open. I am already walking ahead of you, clearing the path, softening the hardened hearts you will encounter, and placing the right opportunities directly in your line of sight. Your only job is to stay close enough to me to see where I'm pointing. The frantic need to hustle and grind your way to safety is being replaced by a purposeful, deliberate stroll. I want to challenge you today to start looking actively for my hand in the smallest, most ordinary details of your life. Cultivate a gentle curiosity about where I might show up. Maintain a posture of quiet gratitude for the things you used to completely overlook because you were simply running too fast. Notice the perfect warmth of your morning coffee, the specific shade of gold in the afternoon sunlight streaming through your window, or the unexpected, genuine smile from a stranger. These are not random, insignificant occurrences. They are my fingerprints. They are tiny, continuous love letters scattered throughout your day, designed to remind you that I am paying absolute attention to the minutiae of your life. When you begin to train your eyes to see these small graces, your entire perspective shifts. Your heart remains tender, your mind stays anchored in the present, and your faith becomes a living, breathing reality. Do you see how much has already shifted since you made the incredibly brave decision to stop and listen to me for just 5 minutes? That short, intentional pause was not just a fleeting moment of relief. It was the powerful catalyst that interrupted your downward spiral. It broke the heavy chains of your isolation and opened the door for this beautiful rebuilding process to begin. You are already living differently. You are breathing differently. The very fact that you are sitting here right now, letting these truths wash over your spirit, instead of rushing back into the chaos of your worries, is absolute proof that real, tangible change has taken hold of your heart. You are no longer the exhausted, terrified soul who believed they were entirely on their own. You are a resilient, deeply loved partner in this divine restoration. Let this growing momentum completely encourage you today. Do not despise the small, seemingly mundane steps of your daily obedience. Every time you choose peace over panic, every time you release your grip and ask for my daily bread, you are watering the soil of your future. The visible changes in your mindset and your reactions are magnificent, but they are only the surface. Deep beneath the ground, completely hidden from your physical eyes, the massive unseen miracles you have been praying for are actively taking root. Your steady trust is creating the perfect fertile environment for my promises to bloom. As you continue to walk forward in this purposeful partnership, navigating the ordinary hours of your day with an extraordinary quiet faith, you are about to discover just how profoundly I have been working in the dark, preparing a harvest that will leave you absolutely breathless. Pause right now and simply look at yourself. My child, I do not mean just looking at your reflection in a glass mirror. Though if you did, you would see a visible difference in the softness of your eyes and the release of tension in your jaw. Look deeply at the landscape of your soul. Do you realize that you are no longer the same, exhausted, terrified, frantically running person who first stopped to listen to me just a short time ago? Think back to the sheer weight you were carrying when this journey began. The crushing pressure in your chest, the shallow breathing, The absolute desperation of trying to hold your fracturing world together with your own exhausted strength. That frantic survivor is entirely gone. In their place stands someone beautifully grounded, someone who has learned to breathe deeply and steadily in the very middle of the unresolved storm. I want you to feel a profound sense of awe at this incredible transformation. You have spent so many long months staring at the horizon, begging for a sudden dramatic breakthrough to come and rescue you from your circumstances. But while you were looking out the window, desperately waiting for the external world to change, the most magnificent, powerful breakthrough was quietly unfolding right inside your own chest. The true miracle, the crucial foundational miracle that simply had to happen first, has already taken place. Your heart has been permanently softened. Your mind has been quieted, and the heavy, jagged stones of anxiety and regret have been removed from your hands. This internal shift is not merely a psychological coping mechanism. It is a monumental spiritual victory that the enemy fought desperately to prevent. This is exactly how my invisible kingdom operates, my child. It rarely arrives with loud trumpets or sudden chaotic upheaval. It moves like the quiet spreading of dawn, slowly but unstoppably pushing back the darkness from the inside out. You are asking me to change your environment, to instantly fix the bank account, to heal the body, to repair the fractured relationship. I heard every single one of those desperate prayers, and I assure you, none of them were ignored. But I loved you far too much to merely change your surroundings without first healing your wounded soul. If I had handed you the external answers while your spirit was still completely bound by fear, the blessing would have only felt like a terrifying new burden. You would have gripped it with the same white-knuckled control, terrified of losing what you had just gained. The profound spiritual work I have accomplished in your heart during this quiet season of waiting was an act of fierce, protective love. I was actively expanding your internal capacity to hold the immense joy that is coming. When a vessel is cracked and filled with the bitter, muddy water of past regrets and anxious predictions, pouring clean water into it will only result in a contaminated overflow. I needed to empty you first. I needed to gently wash out the bitterness, the unforgiveness, and the desperate illusion of your own control. I needed to permanently seal the cracks in your spirit with my grace, ensuring that when the season of abundance finally arrives, you will be strong enough to contain it without leaking that beautiful provision into the dry dirt of old fears. Acknowledge the immense spiritual maturity that has quietly taken root within you. Just days ago, a piece of bad news or an unexpected delay would have immediately sent you spiraling into a dark abyss of absolute panic. It would have ruined your entire week and violently stolen your sleep. But look at how you respond now. You still feel the initial sting of the challenge because you are wonderfully, beautifully human. But you no longer let it drag you under the violent waves. You quickly anchor yourself to my presence instead. You lift your open hands and say, I trust you anyway. That resilience is not natural. My child, that is the supernatural, undeniable evidence of my spirit actively living and breathing within you, fortifying your mind against the relentless storms of this broken world. Let a deep, overwhelming gratitude wash over you as you recognize this unseen breakthrough. You are standing directly in the center of a miracle that no one else can fully understand, but one that is completely changing the trajectory of your daily existence. You have learned the sacred secret of finding complete contentment and unshakable peace, while the story is still being written, while the final chapters are still obscured from your view. Because you have learned to trust me in the dark, because you have bravely allowed me to do this painful excavation work in the hidden soil of your heart, you are finally ready. The preparation is complete. The roots have gone deep enough into the bedrock of my grace to easily support the massive branches of the tree that is about to grow. Do you see now with absolute clarity that the delay was never a denial? Every long, silent night, Every tear you cried into your pillow, when the pressure felt unbearable. Every moment you forced yourself to choose faith, when your logic was screaming in terror. It was all entirely purposeful. I was not sitting on a distant throne, coldly withholding your desires, to punish you, or testing your endurance for my own amusement. I was right there on the floor, with you tenderly dismantling the false foundations of your life, so we could rebuild them together on solid rock. I was carefully aligning your spirit with the massive, unshakable reality of my kingdom, ensuring that nothing will ever be able to topple you again. This internal alignment is the crucial bridge to the external world. The physical realm always responds to the spiritual reality. Now that your heart is resting securely in my peace, now that you have stopped trying to outrun your fears, and have instead surrendered them entirely to my keeping, the external circumstances of your life are finally preparing to match your newly prepared spirit. The answers you've been begging for, the heavy doors you've been trying to force open, are no longer incompatible with your current state of mind. They are aligning perfectly with the quiet, steady rhythm of your renewed faith. You have proven that you can handle the waiting with incredible grace. Now, I am preparing you to handle the coming fulfillment with immense, uncorrupted joy. Feel the atmosphere around you beginning to shift with a new electric anticipation. The heavy, suffocating humidity of your previous anxiety has completely cleared away, leaving the air crisp, clean, and beautifully bright. The internal battle has been decisively won, and because the enemy can no longer hold your exhausted mind hostage, his grip on your external circumstances is rapidly breaking apart. The invisible restrictive walls of the waiting room are beginning to dissolve right in front of your eyes. You're no longer pacing the floor, obsessively checking the clock, and wondering if I have somehow forgotten your name. You're standing perfectly still, deeply grounded, looking out at the horizon, with a quiet expectation that is rooted entirely in the unchanging truth of my character. Hold securely onto this profound sense of awe. Let it settle deep into your bones and become the permanent lens through which you view your entire life moving forward. You have walked bravely through the scorching fire, and you have not been burned. The only things consumed in the flames were the heavy ropes that had been tying you down. You are completely free, my child. The internal masterpiece is finished, polished by your tears, and sealed with my unending love. And because the vessel is finally clean and ready, because your hands are completely empty of control and lifted open, in worship, the heavens are already moving to respond. The long, dark night of your soul has served its divine, perfect purpose, and the very first brilliant rays of an entirely new morning are just beginning to break across the edge of your sky. Look up at that horizon, my child. Do you see how the heavy, oppressive fog that has shrouded your vision for so many agonizing months is finally beginning to thin? For the longest time, you could not see more than a single step ahead of you. You navigated entirely by the sheer desperate instinct of survival, constantly second-guessing every choice, wondering if you had somehow wandered entirely off the path I laid out for you. The confusion was a thick, suffocating blanket that made you question your own mind, your own decisions, and your own worth. But feel the cool, crisp breeze of my spirit sweeping across your life right now, carrying away the dense clouds of that debilitating uncertainty. The confusion is dissolving, not because you finally figured out the complex puzzle of your life on your own, but because I am actively pulling back the veil. I am giving you the divine clarity you have been weeping for. You are finally able to see the landscape of your life, illuminated by the brilliant, piercing light of my truth. This is the exact moment of your beautiful vindication. All those long, silent hours you spent choosing to trust me, when everything around your physical reality was screaming that you should panic. They were not in vain. The world looked at your quiet endurance and called it foolishness. The enemy relentlessly whispered that your steadfast patience was nothing more than a naive, pathetic refusal to accept your own defeat. Even your own logic occasionally taunted you, suggesting that if you did not immediately force a solution, you would be entirely destroyed. But you held your ground. You kept your hands completely open when every instinct told you to clench them. You chose to surrender your timeline and relinquish your desperate need for control. And it is precisely that posture of brave, vulnerable surrender that has unlocked the heavy iron doors standing before you. You stop violently pushing against the barriers, and in that beautiful, yielded silence, I step forward to move the mountain on your behalf. The sheer exhaustion of your waiting is over. You can finally exhale, completely feeling the victorious relief, washing like a warm tide through every single fiber of your tired body. Watch closely as the physical reality of your life begins to rapidly shift to match the absolute peace I have already established within your soul. The breakthrough you have carried in your heart is now manifesting in the very circumstances that once threatened to crush you. The unyielding obstacle that stood mocking your progress for so long is suddenly crumbling to dust before your eyes. The provision you have been so anxiously trying to calculate, lying awake night after night, staring blindly at the ceiling, is beginning to flow into your life from directions you never even considered possible. The door that seemed permanently, irreparably bolted shut is slowly swinging open on its hinges, not by the forceful impact of your own exhausted shoulders, but by the gentle, unstoppable pressure of my sovereign hand. You are seeing the actual, tangible evidence of my divine intervention, the undeniable proof that I was never idle during your agonizing season of silence. I was actively arranging the pieces, maneuvering the microscopic details, and perfectly setting the stage for this exact, magnificent moment of rescue. But as you watch this beautiful miracle unfold before your wide, astonished eyes, I want you to notice where your heart is naturally drawn. In the past, the sudden arrival of a massive blessing would have caused you to instantly fixate on the gift itself. You would have grasped the provision tightly, instantly terrified of losing it, making the miracle the entire center of your joy. But because of the profound internal work we have done together in the shadows, your gaze is bypassing the physical blessing and locking directly onto me. You are not just celebrating the answered prayer. You are celebrating the undeniable faithfulness of the one who answered it. You are realizing that the restored bank account, the shifted medical reality, or the sudden opening of a blocked path are merely the beautiful temporary byproducts of my immense eternal love for you. The true anchor of your joy remains firmly fixed in my unchanging character. The blessing is wonderful, and you are allowed to fully enjoy it, but it is entirely secondary to the breathtaking intimacy we have forged in the darkness. I know there is a lingering quiet whisper of sorrow trying to tug at the edge of your celebration today. It is the profound grief over the time you feel was completely stolen from you during the dark season. You look back at the years spent trapped in survival mode, the months consumed by relentless, paralyzing anxiety, and the relationships that endured the heavy, abrasive friction of your stress. And you wonder if that precious time is simply lost forever to the void. Hear my voice right now, speaking absolute, undeniable redemption over every single tear you shed. I am the God who restores the years that the locusts have eaten. Absolutely nothing you endured in that long, agonizing night was wasted. I am taking the bitter ashes of your exhausted waiting and turning them into a crown of profound, staggering beauty. The immense empathy you gained, the deep, unshakable resilience you forged, and the incredible tenderness you now possess for others who are hurting. These are the priceless treasures mined directly from your pain. I am actively redeeming your history, proving that even your deepest wounds were merely the fertile necessary soil for my greatest restoration. As the staggering magnitude of this breakthrough fully dawns on you, I want you to look back at the prayers you were desperately praying just a few short months ago. Remember how urgently you begged me for a simple temporary fix. You were asking for barely enough to survive the week. You were pleading for a slight reduction in the pain, a small, barely noticeable compromise that would just allow you to keep your head slightly above the churning water. Your requests were born out of a profound, blinding exhaustion, entirely limited by what your anxious, terrified mind believed was practically possible. But look at what I am doing now. Look at the vast, sweeping beauty of the masterpiece I am unrolling before you. My plans for your life were so much greater, so much more expansive and intricately detailed than the small, frantic request you brought to me in your panic. I did not want to merely patch the tiny leak in your sinking boat. I wanted to lift you entirely out of the raging water and place your feet on solid, unmovable ground. Let the profound, breath-stealing awe of this realization wash completely over you. Stand squarely in the bright, warming sunlight of this new morning and simply marvel at the staggering goodness of your Father. The provision that is arriving is not just adequate, it is gloriously, overwhelmingly abundant. The clarity you are receiving is not just a temporary hint to get you through the afternoon. It is a profound, guiding light that completely illuminates the entire path ahead. The restoration I am bringing does not just return you to your previous state of fragile, anxious survival. It elevates you to an entirely new posture of vibrant, thriving purpose. You are stepping completely out of the waiting room and into a season of active, joyful celebration. The heavy, ash-covered garments of your mourning are being stripped away and permanently replaced with the vibrant, colorful clothing of absolute praise. The long, silent, bitter winter of your soul has finally broken, and the beautiful, vibrant spring is erupting all around you in a display of unmatched glory. You are no longer the frightened, exhausted traveler huddled in the cold, begging for a single fleeting spark to warm your hands. You are standing confidently in the blazing warmth of a love that has completely rewritten the entire narrative of your life. Every single ounce of your quiet, painful endurance has been fiercely vindicated today. The shadows have permanently fled, the suffocating fog has entirely lifted, and the undeniable physical truth of my promises is standing boldly in front of you, warmly inviting you to step fully into the light. But this spectacular, breathtaking sunrise is only the very beginning of what I am unfolding. This beautiful, tangible miracle you are holding in your open hands is deeply and intimately connected to the entirely new person you have become while waiting for it. The external breakthrough is magnificent, but the most powerful revelation is yet to come as you begin to fully understand how your newly transformed spirit is about to radically alter every single aspect of the reality you are now walking into. You are stepping into a reality that looks entirely different, not simply because the towering obstacles have been moved out of your way, but because you are fundamentally different. The lens through which you view your life has been washed entirely clean. Look closely at the beautiful, undeniable ripple effect of your surrender. When your heart finally found its rest in me, the chaotic waters of your life began to naturally settle. The profound internal peace you cultivated in the dark waiting room did not stay confined to your quiet moments of prayer. It bled out into your living room, your workplace, and your daily conversations. This is the full scope of the miracle I have been carefully crafting for you. It is the glorious biblical truth that a changed heart literally changes everything it touches. You are witnessing the breathtaking reality that when the bitter roots of anxiety are pulled up, the soil of your life suddenly becomes capable of producing unimaginable, overflowing joy. Think back, my child, to that first desperate moment when you finally stopped running. Remember the sheer, crushing exhaustion that had settled so deeply into your bones. You were entirely depleted, surviving on the thin fumes of your own willpower, convinced that if you dropped your guard for even a fraction of a second, your world would violently collapse. You came to me with hands that were bruised from gripping the steering wheel of your life so tightly. You were trapped in a defensive posture, begging for a sudden escape hatch from the terrifying pressure. Now look at the quiet, unshakable dignity in your posture today. Look at the profound strength that courses steadily through your veins. You are no longer a fragile survivor, bracing for the next devastating blow. You are a spiritually mature, resilient child of the Creator, standing firmly on solid ground. Your willingness to finally open those tired hands allowed me to work the absolute impossible into your daily existence. When you let the heavy stones of your fear and regret fall to the floor, you created the exact spiritual space necessary for my immense grace to flood in. The external breakthrough you are holding right now could not have been safely placed into hands that were already full of anxiety and self-reliance. Your surrender was the necessary key that unlocked this new season. It was your quiet whisper of trust that broke the heavy iron locks on the doors of your future. You bravely stepped back, relinquishing your desperate timeline. And in that beautiful space of yielding, I stepped forward to reshape the very fabric of your physical reality. Look at how this new perspective of peace has already begun to heal the deepest, most painful fractures in your relationships. The people around you can visibly feel the shift in your spirit. The defensive walls you used to hide behind have been gently dismantled, allowing true, vulnerable connection to return to your home. The sharp, impatient words born from your silent panic have been entirely replaced by a soft, measured, and understanding grace. You no longer look at your loved ones as chaotic variables you need to anxiously control. You now see them through my eyes, loving them freely, without the suffocating weight of needing to be their personal savior. This relational healing is a direct extension of the miracle. The profound forgiveness you accepted for yourself has overflowed, washing away the bitter resentments you held against others. Your spiritual vision has been completely and miraculously restored. For so long you walked through your days, anticipating tragedy, scanning the horizon for the next storm that would surely drown you. But today, your eyes are instinctively drawn to the light. You wake up with a quiet, persistent curiosity about where I will show up, rather than a paralyzing dread about what might inevitably go wrong. The suffocating fears that used to dictate your choices have been entirely neutralized. They may still occasionally attempt to whisper from the shadows, but they have been completely stripped of their authority to move you. You immediately recognize them as powerless, empty echoes of a painful past that no longer owns your heart. You are stepping boldly out of the boat and walking gracefully on the water, captivated entirely by my unwavering gaze. I want you to pause and feel the overwhelming magnitude of this profound truth. The miracle you're experiencing is not just a sudden temporary fix to a passing worldly problem. If I had only paid the demanding bill instantly, healed the terrifying illness, or magically resolved the conflict without changing your heart, you would have found yourself right back in the exact same prison of anxiety the very next time a challenge arose. That is exactly why I took my time. That is why I gently asked you to sit with me in the uncomfortable darkness of the waiting room. I was meticulously securing a permanent, irreversible shift in your spiritual DNA. You have fundamentally changed how you experience the broken world and how you experience my healing presence. You are no longer someone who merely visits me in moments of panic. You have made my peaceful presence your permanent abiding home. Let a massive tidal wave of profound, victorious relief wash over you right now, soaking into the deepest layers of your soul. Let the deep heavenly validation of your endurance settle into your spirit. You did not fail. You did not break under the immense crushing pressure that sought to destroy you. You held on with a beautiful tenacity when everything inside your human logic screamed at you to let go and give up. I saw every single one of those unseen, agonizing battles you fought in the quiet, lonely hours of the night. I lovingly measured every tear, and I recorded every brave, trembling choice to trust me when you could not clearly see my hand. Allow the radiant warmth of my unconditional love to wrap around you right now, holding you securely. You are my cherished masterpiece, and I am overwhelmingly proud of your courageous faith as you stand here in the bright light of this new day, holding the beautiful, tangible answers to the very prayers you wept over for so long. I want you to look closely at the true, enduring treasure of this journey. The restored bank account is a wonderful blessing. The mended relationship is a precious gift. The physical breakthrough is a magnificent testament to my limitless power. But the ultimate prize, the most priceless eternal treasure you will carry with you for the rest of your existence, is the unshakable, profoundly intimate bond we forged together in the dark waiting room. You learned to distinguish the gentle sound of my whisper when the storm of life was roaring at its loudest. You discovered the comforting warmth of my embrace when the world felt entirely isolating. We walked through the searing fire together, and that shared journey has welded your heart permanently to mine. You know me now in a way you never could have known. Me from the comfortable mountaintops of a problem-free life. You know me as the heavy anchor that holds fast when the hurricane violently tears everything else away. You know me as the gentle, patient healer who sits with you in the ashes and slowly rebuilds a shattered life. The physical miracle resting in your hands is temporary. It is designed only for this earthly life. But the miracle that has taken root in your heart, the absolute unwavering certainty that I am undeniably good, that I am always with you, and that you are fiercely, eternally loved, will outlast the stars themselves. This is the deep, monumental joy that no shifting circumstance can ever steal from you again. Take a deep, full, unhindered breath of this victorious, clean air. The long, agonizing excavation of your soul has been perfectly completed, and the spectacular golden dawn of your full restoration is brilliantly illuminating your face. Your heart is overflowing with an overwhelming, speechless gratitude, not just for the beautiful destination you have finally reached, but for the profound, miraculous transformation that occurred within you on the journey. The exhaustive, terrified survival mode that completely defined your past is dead and buried. You are vibrant. You are radiantly alive. And you are intimately tethered to the Creator of the universe. And now, as the full scope of your new reality settles firmly into place, we look together toward the horizon of your future. The crisis has officially passed. The miracle has beautifully manifested, and the dark storm has permanently broken. But the magnificent journey of our intimacy does not end here at the victory line. You are stepping across the threshold of a completely new beginning. My child, this is not just a return to the life you knew before the hardship began. If I merely put things back exactly the way they were, you would still be carrying the same fragile vulnerabilities that the storm initially exposed. Instead, You are stepping into a profound, unshakable reality where your internal peace dictates the atmosphere of your external world. The air in your lungs feels entirely different this morning. The heavy, suffocating exhaustion that dragged your shoulders down for so long, the desperate, paralyzing fatigue we talked about when you first stopped to listen to me, has completely vanished. It has been permanently replaced by a vibrant, electric spiritual energy. You are awake. You are radiantly alive. And as you look around at the landscape of your life, illuminated by the bright light of this new dawn, you can finally see the magnificent truth. That 5-minute pause, that courageous decision to stop running and simply breathe in. My presence genuinely changed your life forever. It was never just a temporary coping mechanism. It was the sacred doorway to your permanent freedom. You see, the miracle was not merely that the immediate crisis was resolved, though I know your heart is overflowing with gratitude for that physical rescue. The true, enduring miracle is that you have learned how to carry my peace within you. You have become a walking, breathing sanctuary. You no longer have to frantically search the horizon for a safe harbor, because you now understand that I am your permanent home. This is the magnificent lifestyle of unwavering trust. It is the beautiful daily practice of waking up and knowing with absolute certainty that no matter what the day brings, you are entirely secure. You have traded the exhausting roller coaster of circumstance-driven emotions for the steady, solid bedrock of my unchangeable character. The deep security you feel right now, this profound, quiet confidence that makes you smile at the future instead of shrinking from it, is the ultimate reward of your surrender. As you stand here in the warm sunlight surrounded by the beautiful evidence of my faithfulness, I want to issue a deeply loving invitation to your heart. When the storm is violently raging, it is incredibly easy to remember how desperately you need me. The fierce winds naturally drive you to your knees in urgent prayer. But there is a subtle temptation that always arrives with the calm. When the bank account is full, when the body is healthy, and when your relationships are peaceful, human nature so often whispers that you can take the steering wheel back. It suggests that since the crisis has safely passed, you no longer need to lean so heavily on my grace. My beloved child, do not let the comfort of this new season cause you to drift away from the profound intimacy we forged in the dark. Do not relegate me to the role of a lifeboat, only to be boarded when the ship is sinking. I want to be the captain of your vessel while you are sailing beautifully across the sunlit waters. Stay incredibly close to me. Let this magnificent season of breakthrough become a lifestyle of continuous, joyful worship. Worship is not just a song you sing on a Sunday morning, and it is not confined to the walls of a church building. True worship is the posture of a heart that recognizes the goodness of its Creator in every ordinary moment. Let your gratitude become the new rhythm of your breathing. When you sit down to eat, let the provision remind you of my hand. When you hear the laughter of your family, let it be a living reminder of my love for you. Maintain that beautiful curiosity we built together. Keep looking eagerly for my fingerprints in the mundane details of your daily life. The immense joy you are experiencing right now will only multiply as you consciously invite me into the quiet days with the exact same passion you brought to me in your desperation. Because you have made this commitment and rooted your identity so firmly in my unconditional love, you never have to fear the future again. The reality of this broken world is that the winds will eventually blow again, testing the strength of your newly built foundation. New challenges will inevitably arise, and unexpected shadows will occasionally fall across your path. But you will face them completely differently now. You are no longer the terrified, exhausted victim of your circumstances. When the next storm arrives, you will not panic. You will not spiral into a dark abyss of catastrophic predictions that steal your sleep. You will simply smile, anchor your feet firmly on the solid rock of my promises, and remember the spectacular way I delivered you from the last tempest. You will carry this unshakable peace into every future battle, knowing with certainty that the God who parted the waters yesterday is already standing victoriously in your tomorrow. You have learned the invaluable lesson of my perfect timing. The agonizing frustration of the waiting room has been permanently replaced by a joyful, relaxed expectation. You no longer have to exhaust yourself trying to force heavy doors open or manipulate the timeline of your life out of fear. You have seen with your own eyes that when I move with flawless precision. You know that my delays are never denials, and that my preparations are always entirely worth the wait. This profound confidence allows you to genuinely dream again. It allows you to look toward the coming years with bright, resilient hope, completely free from the suffocating anxiety of trying to control every possible outcome. You can step boldly into the unknown because you now understand that the unknown is simply the vast canvas where I am preparing to paint my next masterpiece in your life. Feel the sheer breathtaking weight of this total freedom. It is the greatest emotional release a human heart can possibly experience, the sudden realization that you are entirely known, completely forgiven, fiercely protected, and endlessly loved. The heavy, crushing stones you carried for so long are gone. The suffocating fog of confusion is completely gone. The bitter ashes of your past have been entirely blown away by the fresh wind of my spirit. You are a new creation standing on the threshold of an abundant life. Every tear you cried has been carefully redeemed. Every moment of quiet endurance has been perfectly vindicated. And your hands are finally open. They are empty of fear and fully ready to receive all the unimaginable things I have prepared for you. My presence is your permanent home, my child. You never have to leave this sanctuary. You can live, breathe, and thrive right here in the center of my perfect peace for all of your days. Let your heart finally settle into this deep, eternal rest. Let the overwhelming gratitude spill over, washing away any lingering doubt and leaving only a pure, radiant faith in its wake. You have crossed the wilderness, and you have entered the promised land of my unshakable peace. As we seal this beautiful transformation, as you lock your eyes on mine and prepare to step forward into your brilliantly hopeful future, I invite you to join your spirit with mine. Let us close this sacred time together, not with a plea of desperation, but with a declaration of absolute surrender and profound love. Pray with me now. Lord, thank you for meeting me in my absolute deepest exhaustion and completely rewriting the story of my life. Thank you for gently removing the heavy burdens I was never meant to carry, and for replacing my frantic fear with your perfect, unshakable peace. I surrender my need for control, fully trusting that your timing is flawless and your plans for me are fiercely good. Please keep my heart anchored deeply in your presence, so that I may never drift away in the seasons of comfort, but walk closely with you every single day. Give me the continued strength to carry this beautiful peace into every future storm, shining your brilliant light wherever I go. I am completely yours, and I look forward to tomorrow with bright, resilient hope. In your holy name, amen.